Predictions-SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network Link 173. I'm your very sweaty host, Spencer Presley. Joining me today is a special two-guest episode. We haven't done one of those in a while. First is our less special guest, no offense, Mac.
Hi.
See, you just keep perpetuating your terrible timing for introductions, but I'll at least thank you for not hanging up like last time you were on the show. So thank you for not hanging up.
I kind of hate that you didn't keep that in.
See, I thought about it, and then I was like, I just got to get this dumpster fire up. Also joining us on this dumpster fire is my very good friend Greg.
What is up, everybody? Thanks, Spencer. I appreciate it for being a very special guest.
You are a very special guest. You're most people don't know this, but you're my not officially certified life coach.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot all about that.
Once a life coach, always a life coach. At least till the restraining order comes into effect.
Yeah, which way is it going to go first, though? Me against you or you against me?
It's going to be the double whammy one where we're going to be rushing each other to the courthouse, see who can get away from each other first. So, because most of us here aren't super aware of each other, and this is, Greg, your first time on such a weeb podcast, I thought it might be fun to do two quick little icebreakers. One that, first off, doesn't really necessarily need any real knowledge or whatever, but we can kind of get a good bit of an opinion for everyone. We are going to give a really quick 3-tier opinion list. And there's going to be no thinking. I'm going to say what it is, and I want both of you guys to just tell me right away. First is going to be Greg, and then first is going to be Mac.
Well, I didn't realize there was a quiz.
Well, this will be easy for all three of us. Trust me. I'll say you in a second. All
Okay.
right. What is your go-to fast food place, Greg?
Oh.
No thinking. You got to answer.
For Wendy's.
Oh, man, bad choice. All right, Mac.
Wendy's.
No thinking. You can judge later.
No, straight up, that was my answer.
Oh no! That means it's
like
a double vote for Wendy's.
It's like we're meant to be partners or something.
Are you actually fucking with me, or were you really gonna say Wendy's?
I was actually gonna say Wendy's.
I just said it because I don't eat fast food a lot, and it's the first thing that pops in mind because it's closest to my house.
Clearly, this episode, much like Rick and Morty this season, brought to you by Wendy's breakfast meal. All right, well, fuck. I guess you guys have really turned this on its head. We're not gonna talk. Instead, what is your go-to Wendy's item?
Whoa. What's yours?
No, well, mine is, let's see, if we're doing fast food, I don't do a ton of fast food anymore, so it has to be Taco Bell, I guess.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, so what is the go-to Wendy's item for both of you guys, then?
French fries.
Well, you roll up to a drive-thru and just get French fries and leave?
Look, that is my ultimate guilty pleasure. I last week drove out 15 minutes to go to Five Guys to get 2 large orders of fries.
Oh, they do some good fries. They're greasy pits, but they're good fries.
If the bag isn't fucking soaked, I don't want it.
Look, and the thing that sucks right now with the whole COVID thing is that it seems like they're skimping you on the fries.
Oh, dude, which one are you going to? The one by the mall is drowning in fries every time I go.
Look, I'm out here at Lee's Summit, and normally they're drowning you in fries, and you get that large cup with a bunch of extra fries in there. It was just 2 large cups. There was no extra fries.
That sounds really disappointing. Yeah, I've had a very, very tiny handful of experiences where Five Guys is bad, but when they're bad, it's not like when you get really bad fast food, if you go to a Sonic. It's bad in the way of how good Five Guys is at their best, so anything less is fuck, why did I pay $9 for this if it sucks?
It's usually just bad because disappointing. Because you didn't get the size that you expected to get.
Yeah.
Not even that tastes bad. It's just that it didn't meet what you normally get.
See, for me, Wendy's thing is, like, if I ever eat there, I at least always get, like, spicy chicken nuggets. But, like, I very rarely ever go to Wendy's. Like, for the first time in my girlfriend's life, she's 22. It took me way too long to realize that. Good thing she didn't listen to the show. She's 22. She's never had Wendy's till, like, a month ago. Which, like, the only thing I found funnier about that whole situation is the only reason she wanted to go to Wendy's is, like, I had just gotten my stimulus check, and I was like, I have nothing to spend this on. She's like, take me to Wendy's. I was like, why? Why is that your first purchase?
Check of Wendy's.
I was like, how much Wendy's can I buy with $1,200?
Spend all $1,200 at Wendy's.
That would be like, how many nuggets can I get for $1,200? And no, I'm not kidding.
1,200 orders of nuggets because I only $1 each.
That'd be we're gonna burn that whole place down nuggets. All right, Mac, what is your go-to Wendy's item and why?
Honestly, straight up, it's a chicken sandwich.
And why?
Because I like chicken.
All right.
And it's a sandwich.
Well,
and it's a sandwich.
You guys definitely
Honestly,
broke me with the Wendy's comment. I was expecting anything but Wendy's.
Look, if I learned anything right now, it's that we can both agree Wendy's Sonic yeah, sucks.
Man, you said it, not me. Oh, man. But yeah, Sonic is definitely really bad. Well, our other thing I know we definitely all can't say the same answer for. So, all three of us here have had a good amount of time working in retail for any part of our life. I've worked retail, at least if we combine, I guess, all of my jobs. I've worked at least 4+ years of my life at retail. I no longer do. Mac, how long have you ever worked in retail?
I'd say about 2 years now.
And Greg, are you comfortable telling everyone how long you've worked retail?
Let me do some math here. Carry the 12 years.
Okay. So I thought it'd be fun if we could all take, in these less than super happy fun times we are currently living in, think of a random happy memory we have of working at retail. Does anyone have an immediate memory that jumps out, or should I go first?
I do.
Go for it.
This one time I got tipped a watermelon. like an entire watermelon.
What?
The dude was just like, "Hey, do you like watermelon?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Come here." And then I walked outside to his truck, and the back of his truck was just filled with watermelons, and he was like, "Take one."
Oh my god.
The free watermelon sign on the side of it didn't like tip you off that it might not be a good idea?
No. So I took a watermelon, and then I brought it back inside, and it was just me and my manager. And he was just like, "Why do you have a watermelon?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I have it now."
I've had some. I want to judge you, but like I literally have a story of like I made fun of customers who would buy stuff I don't like it when I worked at CVS. And I once had a lady, she would come in every day to buy circus peanuts and those little like dollar candy bags. I was like, man, circus peanuts look like such trash. And this lady literally opened it up and made me eat one in front of her. And I didn't put any thought into it. I'm like 19 at the time. I'm like, all right, I'll eat this in front of her. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty bad. Wow. Now the important question we need to ask, what happened to the watermelon?
Oh, I ate it. I ate the whole thing. I didn't let anyone else have it.
Please tell me you ate it on your same shift you got it.
No, I wasn't able to open it up. We didn't have anything at work to actually crack it open with.
Man, that's gonna be tough to beat. Greg, do you have a retail memory that's gonna be getting a stranger's watermelon?
I don't think it's that awesome. I don't have too many great stories, but I do remember when I think you and I were working together at the time when the Amiibos first started coming out.
Oh man, and that was a magical night.
Everybody was in a craze, and it wasn't at launch, but shortly thereafter when they started doing all the stupid exclusives at stores. I remember one of my regulars actually went and purchased me a Target exclusive because I couldn't get out there.
Was it that guy who worked at Target, if I'm thinking correctly?
No, it was a woman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know women. I only know one I'm allowed to anymore. Well, do you remember what the Amiibo was?
I want to say it was
Was it
Rosalina.
Rosalina? Yeah,
Yep.
Rosalina was the one that was insane to get. Yeah, so like what's so funny about those days is like they're like it's barely over 5 years ago, but what's so odd about it is like it feels like a whole lifetime. Like I was thinking about this because Xenoblade just came out. I was like, guys, that Shulk amiibo is 5 years old.
I think the craziest thing about it is it was for a console that was pretty much dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like
it was more popular because of that.
Yeah, amiibos were the shot in the arm that system probably no one ever would have guessed. But like, it's so odd because like if you look at it now, like the market has like they really just kind of let it die. Like it's really on their own back. Like it's not anyone else's fault. Like the market was there, they were hungry, except we just didn't really know that they were going to drown in Animal Crossing figures.
And then every year and a half now, they're like, here's 3 new ones.
Yeah, that whole thing is so odd. But yeah, I will say, yeah, working with you during the whole amiibo phase was so interesting, especially because all those store exclusives of like having the guy who worked at Toys R Us get like the exclusive figures, have like the people, like oh god, I just remember like the one when you knew like everything was screwed is when Amazon finally got into the exclusive figure game, because it was like oh shit, dude, no one can give you the hookup on Amazon.
No, yeah, you got to be quick with that clicker.
My stand-up memory is going to be a lot quicker, but it's one I was thinking about recently just because I was talking to someone about PlayStation Vita stuff, unsurprisingly. Greg, do you remember the night that I got into the Hyperdimension Neptunia series?
No.
It was the very coveted release, the midnight launch release of Madden that year in August of 2014. And I was there with you. It was just a regular Madden night. That was like my first Madden opening or whatever. And I'm just sitting there because I'm just sitting and enjoying the times. And I'm looking at all the new games that came out that day. And I look and we have one game that like stands out to me like, wait a minute. This sounds familiar. We had one copy, still sealed, unreserved, of Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1 on the midnight launch of Madden probably 15. And I'm like, dude, I gotta get this game. And I don't know what came over me that day, but I was like, I just gotta get it. Like, I don't know why. Like, let me just, like, get this, like, in whatever. We'll see what happens. And then for, like, the next 3 years, I ended up getting, like, every single game, every single collector's edition for it, and got so hooked into it, which was funny because it wasn't my first introduction to the series. Like, I had reviewed the like idle managing sim like that released probably 6 or 7 months ago earlier, but what's so funny about that is I always remember that night at Madden and me being so excited once everyone left at line at the end. I was like, I think it was either like you or Tori like checked me out and I got that game, and I was like, oh man, I'm so pumped to play this on Madden night.
Yeah, I don't remember that specifically, but I feel like if it was me there, I probably said something to you after selling all those Madden copies to the effect of like fucking nerd.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
There are like I have like trigger words of like games that like I remember you giving me shit for. Like one of my biggest ones was what did you used to call Toikiden Kiwami? I feel like it was along the lines of like Twerkin' or Twerk It Kid. It was like something like that.
Yep.
So moral of the story: work retail as long as humanly possible and never get on a pension plan.
Yeah, thanks for making me feel old and horrible.
See, 12 years at retail sounds bad until people listening to this realize you're only 18 years old.
I know. I'm child labor all day.
All day. So, guys, we're living in a weird time. What was going to be E3, thankfully, is dead. We're in a really light time for news. And the PlayStation 5 reveal was going to be this week, but has now been pushed back. But I wanted all of us to get together and kind of just give some general hardware as well as software predictions for the PS5. And before we kind of do that, I want to give, I don't know if this really counts as a softball, but just because we're in that weird era of the PS5 event was going to be Thursday, and as of today, Monday, where we're recording, is been pushed back. When do you guys think it's going to happen? Because I'm personally in the thing of, I bet you at Sony, they pushed it up a week, and like next Thursday, they're going to do it again.
I'm going to say a week.
I'm gonna go with 2 weeks. I think if they were gonna do it next week, they would have told us.
But see, like, isn't it like kind of hard to be like, hey, we're delaying this, but we already have it ready for next week? Like, I don't know. Like, my biggest thing I'm thinking of is what was that Nintendo Direct where they delayed it because of like the tsunami or whatever? But like, wasn't that only like a week or so?
Yeah, but that was a different situation. Like, that's something where a week later it's all going to be cleared up and somewhat better. Whereas with this one, it's more or less touch and go.
I think, okay, here's what I'll say. I'll put a little addendum. It'll be next week, but my guess is it'll be next week, at least right now. Like, they're hoping that if they push it back a week, by the time it gets there, things will have quieted down. But if this stuff is still going like full blown, if not getting worse, then they just won't say anything and they'll push it back even farther.
See, this is Mac trying to get those double points.
Those doubles.
I don't remember who tweeted it, but I saw someone tweet something that like I kind of agree, where the reasoning for why they delayed it makes sense, but there's the cynic in me that feels like part of the reason they might have delayed it is because if it happened as it was supposed to, it probably wouldn't get the headlines that they would be hoping for.
So what makes you say that, just out of curiosity? Because I feel like in the world of games news, it's kind of quiet, and with the exception of all the social media posts we're seeing, like, I feel like no one's really like talking about the elephant in the room besides Sony moving out of the way this week.
I think, well, the reason I say that is, one, like I said, is just the cynic in me, just the part that's like, you know, things are bad, company is just interested in their own stuff, you know, just that. I legitimately think they pushed it back because, you know, it's because now just really isn't much of a good time to do it. But I think another thing is, I think even if they do like have it happen and all of this stuff is still going on, I feel like even if nothing's really happening in video games, I think they would still want it to be like, this is what everyone's talking about, and a lot of people right now are just thinking like, no, I'm not gonna, like, video games are like the least important thing right now, and they just don't want to talk about it. So I think if the cynic in me is correct, they would want to wait for a time when people are more willing to just be like, oh yeah, let's talk about video games, one of the least important things in a lot of people's lives in terms of like priority, I mean.
Okay, so as one of three current white guys talking on this podcast, I'm going to address the elephant question in the room, not because this is what I think personally. I'm personally on the side of like, hey, go for it, delay the show. I want to ask you guys and everyone listening this kind of conversation question of, did Sony have to push this back? Like, if this did happen on Thursday, whether attention and everything aside, do any of you guys think that it would have negatively hit them of like, oh, come on, man, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about this now?
Yes, I do. I mean, you had, just an example, you had David Guetta try to do like some thing in New York City in remembrance of George Floyd and everything else going on, and that just did not hit right. And I think that's kind of the same vibe Sony was looking at, is if they release something now, it draws too much away from the current situation and provide, like, I don't want to say it gives hope and provides something good, but it's a good and a bad time that doesn't really work right now. You have to focus on what's going on, I think, and that's what they're looking at.
Do you guys remember, and I forget which E3 this was, but it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago, that big mass shooting that happened like right the week of E3, and it felt like every conference had to talk about it at one point, or like have something about gun safety and whatnot, of like, hey, I know we're about to show you Battlefield and it has a ton of shooting, but like, guns are bad, but like, hey, check out this game. Like, do you think they were like...
that was the year they showed off
shooting.
Yeah, the Orlando nightclub shooting, and they showed off Days Gone twice. because they pulled Red Dead, was it?
Yep, Red Dead Redemption was pulled from a Sony show that year.
Yep.
I think my favorite thing from how they handled how they handled addressing the shooting was specifically Ubisoft, and how they opened their show with their usual Just Dance showcase, where it's just a big musical number, song and dance and everything, and then immediately afterwards they're like, now that we've done that, we just want to take a moment of silence for the victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting, and then they all just and they're silent for like 30 seconds to a minute, and then as they're doing this, there is a guy in a panda suit and people wearing like bright, colorful outfits, and like one of them's dressed up like a very flamboyant Abraham Lincoln or some shit, and it's just the most like, this is ridiculous. This is like kind of offensive that you would think to do it now of all times.
Yeah, so, it's like a remembrance on an LSD trip.
But like going back to my problem of like, hey, remember E3 was going to happen this week, of like, hey, so if E3 was an actual event, do any of you guys think that they would have pushed this back if like it wasn't as easy as just pushing back a digital event where they just have to press play on a live stream?
No, I think if it was like an actual press conference and all that, they still would have done it on time, because that's a lot harder to push back than a digital showcase.
Yeah, and not to mention, if I'm not mistaken, it happened on a Sunday night, so like the showcases had already started, right?
Yeah, you're right, because I remember EA actually probably didn't do anything, and yeah, that was like right after like one of the shows, so it happened like in the middle of E3 that year.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird thing, and like I think I'm the same with you guys in the camp of like, hey, push it back. Like the conversation when like all this happens, like this should be a moment of like getting excited and getting like hyped. It shouldn't really be a thing of like us looking at this and being like, what the fuck are we doing? Like we should be talking about stuff that's more important. And like I get that. It's like one of those things of how you see all these people getting mad online of like the like Karens of the world or whatever, just being like, guys, can we just talk? But what's up with these riots, man? You're just taking away from the message. It's like, hey, man, if all you want to talk about is the riots, like you're not ready for this conversation.
I just can't stop thinking about that stuff that happened with the Sonic fan community website.
What happened?
TSSZ. Oh God. Okay. So this is. Do you know what TSSZ is?
No, but I think I'm about to learn, fortunately.
Okay, so TSSZ is, I only learned about them recently. Well, I had seen the name, but I didn't know what it was exactly. I just knew it was something Sega related. It's a fan website that has been around for 21 years. It is basically dedicated to documenting Sonic, Sega, and fan community news. And in terms of like an archive for that kind of stuff, it's like really fantastic because it's been around for so long. And there's a lot of, it's been like pretty popular within like the Sonic and Sega fan community. And anyway, they, in the last week, since all of this started, they started documenting and reporting on the protests. And people were like, why is a Sonic fan website reporting on this? So I believe it was the site's owner. I'm not sure, but the owner, Tristan, he started going on a rant on the official Twitter account saying that people are ridiculous. If you think we shouldn't be reporting on this, then I need to remind you. The first minute of Sonic Adventure 2 is Sonic being wrongfully detained by the police. And the entirety of Sonic Forces is about a resistance resisting the oppression of Eggman. And it was the most like kind of belittling, like, dude, are you seriously comparing racial injustice to a freaking Sonic game? And anyway, the backlash, people were mocking it and laughing at it to the point where Tristan and assumedly everyone else who works on the site all just agreed that, you know what, we should just nuke the website because clearly there's more important things. We should just nuke the entire website so the whole thing's gone.
Wow, that's kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, huh?
Yeah.
Well, at least the site didn't get into its Sonic Heroes phase of the analogy. I would have been a little bit worried of, like, the process are like Sonic Heroes where everyone's teaming up to take it down.
Oh my god, yeah. It's those, when I saw that, when I first learned about it, it was just because I saw those comparisons back when he first posted it, and I was like, that is stupid. And then the next thing I heard was, yeah, the whole website's gone, and the website now is just a message saying that there are more important things in the world, and we decided that we want to spend our time doing that than covering Sonic. And it's like, wow, you just can't admit that you made a stupid comparison.
I mean, if you cover Sonic for 21 years, like, you kind of have nowhere else to go.
Speaking of covering Sonic, in a really bad segue, but I would be remiss not to ask this. Have you guys been following the absolutely outlandish rumors about Sega publishing the Xbox Series X?
Japan?
Yeah, so a rumor which I'm guessing is just getting started by people trying to equate the quote-unquote megaton bomb of news happening sometime in early June is people are thinking online that Microsoft is having Sega publish the Xbox Series X hardware under their name because Microsoft has so little of a foothold. And I would love to know what you guys think about this because, boy, when I saw that, I was like, okay, there's a lot wrong with this, and in the sense of, like, almost everything, but, like, the amount of people who have, like, latched on to this idea of, like, guys, no, like, think about it, like, what if, like, in Japan, they just basically call it, like, the Dreamcast 2, or whatever, and it's just, like, this whole thing of, like, do people, like, not know that, like, unless your name is Yakuza, and maybe Persona, like, Sega is broke as shit. Like, they barely have enough money to put out their own games, let alone, like, systems.
Like, well, those are in terms of, like they sell well, but they're also quality. Sonic games still make bank, even the bad ones. But yeah, and also Puyo Puyo. But yeah, no, I don't believe this for a second. I think there would just be a number of, well, if it turns out that Sega is going to be publishing the Xbox in Japan, then why not? Like does that would clearly mean this, and it would clearly mean that. Like, all Yakuza games now are going to release on the Xbox Series X, because why would they not?
Greg,
Well,
what do you think of the whole thing as kind of less of a Sega fan and more on the Xbox side of things?
I mean, I don't want to say I'm more on the Xbox side of things, but it actually kind of makes sense.
I mean, no, you're right. Like, there are dominoes in effect of, like, hey, if you look at Yakuza, if you look at PSO2 coming out, like, there are weird things about their partnership that, like, you have to step back and go, why are they working together?
Well, I mean, not only that, like, the history between them is that more or less the original Xbox was Dreamcast 2.0. They pulled a lot of stuff from Sega, a lot of the exclusives. They partnered up with them quite a bit, so they have that history. Not to mention, if it got published, it would just be published under Sega's name, but Microsoft would still do all the hard work on the backside of it. So it's not like they're necessarily going to lose anything. If anything, it's a partnership where they could probably make money out of it and pull them out of their potential bankrupt situation.
Well, they're definitely out of the bankruptcy situation. They stopped that, I think 2018 or 2019. No, it definitely wasn't 2019. 2019 was a bad year for them. So it was 2018 is when they got less into it. No, you're right though. Yeah, Microsoft would obviously be funding the consoles and everything like that. But you know what would be so funny to think of is that if this does become a true thing, which, boy, I would love to be proven wrong. Imagine, like, so you know how with every Microsoft system there's been the Day 1 edition, the Scorpio edition. Like, imagine in this fucking scenario for all the American Sega fans who want to import, like, who don't want to have to import this, the Day 1 edition of the Series X is the Sega Series X, where it has the Sega logo on it, but it's a North America system.
That'd be awesome. That's a collector's item right there.
Okay, well,
I do definitely think that Xbox is trying to make more of a push in terms of like just Japanese games, whether it's for trying to improve themselves in Japan, or if it's just they understand that a lot of Westerners do like Japanese games. I definitely think that they are going to try and have a much bigger push towards it. I just don't know if they would go as far as to do that.
Okay, before we get into PlayStation, just because I'm really masochistic and think this idea is funny to talk about, you are Sega and Microsoft. You are bundling in one Sega-related Xbox Series X game. What is the launch game you bundle in, and why? It can be a game that doesn't exist, it can be like an old weird port, or it could be a game that like currently exists, like Yakuza 7. Is there anything that like stands out to you?
I mean, I want to say Phantasy Star, but that's already free to play, isn't it?
True, you could be extra big ball or shot caller and say, hey guys, if you buy an Xbox Series X Sega Edition, you get instant access to the Phantasy Star Online 3 Alpha. Like how they did back in the day with Master Chief Collection and Halo 5.
I feel like I'd probably have to be boring and go with the more obvious choice, the bundle in a Sonic game, probably whichever the next one is.
I don't think the next Sonic game's coming out this year. Because I think, remember there was supposed to be that whole like every 20th of the month there was going to be new Sonic news, and then once all this happened, they were like, we're not going to do that.
Well, we got a new Sonic game this year.
Hold on.
Sonic without Mario at the Olympics on mobile.
Oh yeah.
Did you hear that launched so bad that they had to apologize in Japan? The launch for that was so busted they were like, "I'm sorry."
Up until just now, I forgot it launched.
As someone who was on Sega's PR list, I wish I didn't know that game had launched, but I got like 9 million emails for it. I can see the Sonic thing. I guess that would just be such a harder sell, but like even if they did something small, like even if it was like Mania 2, I think that would be a big hit. For me, I'm gonna be like a weirdo in the sense of this is totally not gonna happen, but if they did, it'd be a really cool but cheap port. Just to tie it in super hardcore with Xbox lineage of like the original Xbox and Sega, the Sega Microsoft Xbox Series X would be included in as like a free little bundle, a HD remake of Jet Set Radio Future.
Yeah, that was my other option.
I would love that. I don't think Jet Set Radio is popular enough for that though, or is like successful enough.
That's why you just make it like, hey, make it look nicer, similar to not like the HD port they did of Jet Set Radio, but like I'm trying to think of like one that was like oh my god, there are so many remakes that came out. I have to be able to put my brain on like something. But like one of those like HD remakes where it's like, hey, you made everything look nicer, but like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Like do that of like make everything look nicer, but its skeleton is still the same game.
So you mean the in between of a remaster and a remake?
Yeah. Like that one of like, hey, it's not gonna cost a ton of money. You really just got to make sure you get all the songs licensed, and like fans would freak the fuck out.
Yeah. So pretty much you're just saying like the Final Fantasy re-releases they did in the last few years.
Yeah, but like those are even like kind of less, because like you look at 12 didn't get new models, but Final Fantasy X got new models, so it's always kind of weirder with Final Fantasy. There's not like a Final Fantasy game getting re-released is such a varying scale of quality.
Fair enough.
So, before we move on, I guess we'll just do a final happening or not happening for everyone. Sega Microsoft Series X. Are we on happening or not happening? I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna go with yes. We'll find out. What is it, Thursday? It publishes in the Famitsu article.
Oh, yeah. You're right. It is gonna be in the Famitsu thing. Boy, if that ends up blowing up the spot this week instead of PS5 stuff, that'll be really funny. But if it happens, man, as a Sega fan, I would love to be wrong. But man, I don't see it happening. What color do you make that fridge? It's got to be blue, right? You can't just make it black.
I think it just stays black.
Well, what are you doing? Just throwing the Sega name on it, like the big S? What are you gonna do with it? How are you gonna know that it's Sega related?
It's only on the box. It's not on the console itself. It's just the box.
Like what? Like just like extra like insult to injury, but for nostalgia bait, you like pull out the controller. You can use the new Xbox Series X controller, or it's the Knights big circle controller for the Saturn.
The 6-button Sega controller.
Yeah, but
the
like
Genesis?
the one no, the one specifically that came with Knights. It's like it like looks like someone made like a dinner plate into a controller. It looks really bad.
It's just a disc.
It really is. It's a disc, but it still has like weird controller nubbins on the side. So let's get into a console that's definitely not going to have Sega publishing it in Japan, the PlayStation 5. So
That'd be really weird if they did.
oh boy, that would definitely be something. I thought before we get into talking about hardware and then getting into game predictions, I want to kind of take a step back and have each of us say what is basically give ourselves a chance to vent of what does Sony right now in June of 2020 mean to you? Like, Greg, how do you? What is your relationship with Sony, if anything, as a publisher?
God, putting me on the spot here, Spencer. I mean, as a publisher, it's something I usually gravitate more towards as far as their games and stuff like that, just because I do like the single-player aspect. I don't do much multiplayer stuff. So having a single-player campaign that's usually meaty, really good story, I absolutely love.
Mac, what about you?
As a publisher specifically?
Yeah, so not looking at their first parties, just like as a publisher of system, hardware, and platform.
Okay, so just hardware then. Okay.
Well, like we're also including of like, hey, but about like their publishing guidelines. How do you feel about the PlayStation Store? How do you feel about them marketing games? Like as a whole system. Like how when someone says Valve, no one's saying, hey man, what do you think about Half-Life Alyx? Like they're talking about Steam. Maybe Dota if they're weirdo.
I want a new answer now. That's not fair. Go ahead, Mac. I'll go again after you.
Yes. I would say Sony is a company that I really like. I have every single PlayStation. There are games I love on every single one, but I feel like ultimately I'm still gonna like the PS5, but I think as of right now, I feel like they could potentially be getting kind of a big head again in terms of like how they're getting kind of cocky. Because they're in somewhat of a similar place as they were with the PS3 when that was first releasing, where the Xbox wasn't really doing well. The GameCube wasn't really doing it, and they were just thinking like, oh yeah, we're kind of on top of the world. They can just do whatever. And I feel like now they're not going to be to that same degree of like, oh yeah, we'll do whatever and people will buy it. But I feel like they're going to make some decisions that are more like, we don't need to do that, even though it'd be something that's just straight up pro consumer. Or if it's something that's just straight up a good idea. I'm a little worried that they could end up making some bad decisions based purely out of like, I don't think we need to do that.
Okay, Greg, what about your revised answer?
I mean, so now that we're talking hardware and specifically not their games, I mean, all their hardware is pretty much iconic as far as I'm concerned, even to, I'm sorry, Spencer, the Vita, which is their worst selling unit they've ever had.
Sir, I'm going to need you to look up numbers for the PSP Go.
Yeah, but that was just an iteration of the PSP, so it still falls under the PSP. It's not its own unit like the Vita was. But I think they've been so successful, Mac's right, like they might have their own head up their ass at this point, and trying to do some stupid things. I'm just glad we haven't seen them show off anything like the Boomerang controller. But I'm excited for the PS5, especially in comparison to the opposition that they have.
I'm kind of surprised. I feel like I'm going to be more of the negative Nancy here as someone who probably owns more PlayStation games than both of you two combined. I have not been this disappointed with Sony in a really long time. I think Sony has dropped the ball because of their big-headedness in so many ways. Number one for me is where is PubFund? why did you kill supporting indie games? Why did you let the PlayStation Store become like every other marketplace? Like, yeah, it doesn't have as terrible of a UI as the Switch Store, and like it's not as flooded with garbage as Steam, but like, out of all the dozens of games that come out on the PlayStation Store every week, how many are you really hearing championed outside of the really, really big hitters? Like, even on the smaller scale of things, like something like Streets of Rage 4 is not notable because it got a lot of marketing. It's notable because it's the first time in like 20 years that series had another sequel. Games just never really get marketed. The games that get marketed are only the ones that get the most money from Sony. Going back to what I said about Pub Fund, like there were like that era of post PlayStation, so late PlayStation 3, right in the pretty much majority of Sony's support for the Vita, and early days for PlayStation 4 were like my favorite Sony ever. They were doing the crazy internal weird games. They were doing stuff like Tearaway. They were doing Killzone Mercenary. They were also publishing like tons and tons and tons of awesome games. Like they helped like revitalize indies in a way that I think Microsoft started, but gave a new chance of like, hey, we're not just going to give you money to make this game. We're going to help you by showing it off on the PlayStation blog back when people actually checked it, because, hey, a game coming out on a system was special. It wasn't just one of 30 garbage games or whatever. And like that part of Sony getting away isn't because, oh, we don't need to market our games anymore just because whatever. It's because, oh, hey, we're already in first place, so why should we have to pay people to come to our platform? But like that, like it wasn't about them paying people to put games on PlayStation. It was about the attention they gave those games. Like the closest thing you get to that now is Predator Hunting Grounds, which, like, hey, whether you think the game is fun or not, like, that's not an indie game. Like, that is like a game that was funded by Sony because it is a large movie property by a dev team who worked with a large movie property before. It's as safe of a bet as you can get without becoming AAA. Without getting too ranty, other things I really, really have just disapproved with in recent trends is like their management for PR, the way they've handled censoring by making all of the guidelines and rules for publishing move from Sony Japan and go to Sony in America. Like, whether you enjoy visual novels or games that are like more lewd and like that kind of aspect, we shouldn't have gotten rid of them all. Like, we shouldn't have the Nintendo Switch be the bastion. Like, when Nintendo was the bastion for Japanese games, like, and not PlayStation, just seems like so odd. But like, PlayStation is just trying to be the, at least to me, so safe and so consumer friendly from a Western perspective. It makes someone like me who enjoys Western games but also Eastern inspired games feel like I'm kind of getting slapped in the face. So if that rant makes any sense, it's like, I believe there is like still a lot of good at PlayStation. I love almost all their first parties. Like, I love Sony Bend, I love Insomniac, I love Naughty Dog. Like, I love Japan Studio. Like, I love the games they put out. But like that, like the scrappy underdog version of Sony being gone and being a corporate bigwig, like even just little things like having no corporate head really. Like, Sean Layden's gone. Like, Sean Layden wasn't like a perfect fill-in for Jack Tritton, but like he was better than nothing. Like, why is Shuhei Yoshida not like out there anymore talking? Like, there's no face of PlayStation really. There are faces of game studios kind of, but even that they push under the rug, like Cory Barlog or Neil Druckmann. Rant over. Need a drink.
What specifically when it comes to them as like a publisher of games, one thing that I've definitely had a problem with, especially in the PS4 generation, I think it's gotten at its worst during this last generation, is that their games have all just kind of become not walking simulator, but over the shoulder, third person over the shoulder, cinematic, story based, like they all started to blend together. You don't get a lot of these like big Sony games that are like weird and quirky, that are like a really wide range of stuff. Like during the PS3, you got real Ratchet and Clank, you got Uncharted, you got Killzone. There's there was a decent range
I mean,
of like
even other stuff like
variety.
Little Big Planet, Warhawk, like crazier sort of stuff like that. Like they goes back to what I meant of like they were willing to take risks. Like, and hey, did games like The Puppeteer leave a name from generations to come? Probably not. But like, let's look at something like Bloodborne that came out at the beginning of the PlayStation 4 generation and compare it to something more recent like Days Gone, again, that came out a little over a year ago. When all is said and done in the PlayStation 4 generation, who is going to remember Days Gone over Bloodborne?
Nobody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think Oh, go ahead.
With that, though, not to interrupt you, but with that, don't you think that also has to do with where they were during the PS3 era compared to now?
100%.
I mean,
100%. Yes.
They came out with Killzone specifically because Xbox was dominating them and they needed to have a first-person shooter on their lineup. So they put that out there, and that's why that was so strong of a game for them. That's why it was their leading game on the PS4, because they wanted to have a first-person shooter to give fans on launch date. They took more risks because they needed to get more things out there. I mean, PlayStation All-Stars is a garbage game, but they had to do something to try and combat and get something more people on there. Yeah, well, you like trash stuff then, Spencer. So, I mean, there's a lot there, but this time around, yes, it's all over-the-shoulder third-person players, but they don't need to have a first-person shooter game because there's too many of them. They don't have to necessarily have some outlandish, ridiculous game because they're selling hundreds of millions of copies, it seems like, at this point. I know that's exaggeration, but they're selling tons of them, and they're getting their money's worth. Like, is that Sony's fault for providing fans with something that they clearly want?
I totally think that, yeah, like the reason why they've all just started to become more and more homogenized is because that, yeah, they, in the past, when they offered that variety, it was during times when, you know, they weren't doing as well. PS2 being more of kind of an exception, because there was a pretty wide variety there. But PS3, there was a wide variety because they were just like, let's just get out as much as we can. But with PS4, I still think that, like, regardless of whatever logical reasoning there is for why they all became the way they did, I think it's still a problem. Even if it is like, oh yeah, this stuff sells, I still think it's a problem. The fact that all of their games nowadays are just, they feel and look so similar to the point that it's become a meme when it comes to PlayStation games.
It just sucks because a large part of the problem is, like, it goes back to what both you guys are saying. Of, like, the games are the same, but like Greg says, it's because they sell. And the games that aren't the same, like Dreams, those don't sell because those don't get marketed. Because guess what? All the marketing goes to the big stuff. Like, the only situation of a game, whether you love this game or not, and if anyone knows me, they know I love this fucking game. The only time they've had that crossover of not a safe traditional Sony game and still marketed to hell was Death Stranding. And even that one is a case of, like, hey, even, like, Death Stranding didn't sell Metal Gear Solid numbers. Like, it definitely broke even. But, like, if you've noticed, Sony never has gone out and been like, holy crap, did you see how many copies we sold of this thing?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here on this one because I think you're comparing apples and oranges with Dreams and Death Stranding. I mean, Death Stranding, it wasn't, yes, you marketed the game, but you marketed Hideo Kojima. Like, you pretty much pimped that man out just to get a game, knowing that people would buy that game because his name was attached to it. Whereas Dreams, how do you market Dreams?
That goes more into a thing of, honestly, I think the only reason Dreams got as much leeway as it did is because, hey, Media Molecule, you guys, like, have always, like, been really good with us. You helped, like, give us a big franchise on PS3. Like, it was almost like they got grandfathered in by creativity, not because of necessity, you know? And like by the time Dreams finally came out, you could clearly tell Sony did not believe in it. Like, there was not a marketing push for that really mattered at all.
Personally, my thought was always the fact that Dreams was like one of the first PS4 games announced, and it just took a long time to actually release. That it released at the end of the PS4's life cycle. I feel like they are going to give it a second chance on PS5, where on PS4 it's like, okay, we'll get this out, but then it's like they're gonna treat it as like, no, the real real push behind it would be with the PS5.
Here's some new tools. Look what you can do. Look what's already on there, kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah. At least that's kind of my hope for it, because I feel like Dreams is something that really could mean a lot, and I feel like at this point it would still be difficult to push it and to market it, but I feel like it's something that's really the only hurdle at this point.
That is a much larger discussion just because Dreams is such a fucking bag of worms. But let's get into our official actual predictions. Does anyone want to jump first, or do you guys want me to go into our first of 2 hardware predictions?
Lead the way.
Okay, so I'm going to start off pretty easy with a prediction of what you won't see. The PlayStation 5 will have remarkably worse backwards compatibility than what people are expecting. And when I say this, I mean only PS4, and even that, there will be cases of games that run worse because of the optimization not being 100% even.
Yeah, that was one of my predictions, is the backwards compatibility would be bare bones.
Mm-hmm.
It would be bare bones. It would be a minimum, and it'd be the kind of thing where it's just I feel like this would be one of the things that Sony would go like, we don't really need it,
I gotta say, I've never been more mad than when Hip Hop Gamer a couple of months ago, quote unquote, leaked that the PS5 was going to be backwards compatible with everything. Like, when people read that headline, when you saw the words PSP and Vita was going to be backwards compatible, how people didn't laugh him out of the internet boggles my mind. Like, that is not the Sony we live in. Like Sony is known for showing PlayStation Vita players getting gutted in the neck with a knife. They're not known for making shit backwards compatible.
Yeah, no, if anything, this would be a prime example. This would be a prime opportunity for them to just go like, let's half-ass it.
I think they're gonna fucking lose their lunch to Microsoft, because for years it has been Microsoft showing, hey guys, we're doing Xbox 360, we're doing Xbox Originals, like, and the press release they did last week of like, hey, all the work we did is going into the next generation and going to be even better, and we're committing to every single Xbox One game out there possible. Like, when whatever the launch lineup ends up being for this new hardware, after all is said and done, the Xbox Series X, whether it is the better, worse, or the same platform as the PS5 at the end of the day, it is going to have a vaster library, and that is going to be a selling point for those people who enjoy going back to those older generations of games.
Yeah, but how many people is that realistically in that market?
Dude. Like, you look at, like, dude, the MPDs every now and then, like, you'll see stuff, especially when backwards compatibility was getting announced. Like, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 was in the NPDs the month it got added back into Xbox One backwards compatibility. Like, that's
I remember.
Insane. Like, there's a reason they're re-releasing old Xbox 360 games in Xbox One cases. It's not for nothing.
Yeah, but it's a small thing. That's Xbox's bargaining chip, though. That's pretty much all they're sitting on right now. Like, as a consumer,
I think their big one, like, that's half of their bargaining chip. Their other half is Games Pass. Games Pass is a big boon that PlayStation will not ever meet because they're in first place. They don't need to.
I will say this.
Yeah.
I will say this. In terms of what could come to the console, I feel like I'm more interested in PS5, but in terms of how the first party company is, being pro gamer and like what, like doing things for the consumer, Xbox, I am infinitely more interested. I think they are way more pro gamer. I hate to say it that way, but I don't really know any other way to put it other than customer.
It's sad that they're an allegory for each other, basically.
Exactly, but it's they're doing so many things that are just like, that's really cool. That's exactly what people want, and that's awesome. I just need to know that there's going to be stuff on the Xbox Series X that I want to play that aren't just old Xbox games.
Okay, one little weird thing I want to say before I move on to Greg's first point, just because kind of backing up what you're saying, Mac, a great example is this in terms of how much goodwill Microsoft gets. When PlayStation brings games to PC, very rarely, it is stuff like Predator Hunting Grounds. That is published on PlayStation, like by PlayStation on the Epic Game Store. Like, that is as big of a release as you're going to get outside of something like Horizon Zero Dawn. Xbox releasing Halo 2 on Steam, and the internet fucking loses their mind for like a weekend. Like that, like, yes, those are like a lot harder to compare because one is apples to oranges, but like, guess what? There's nothing stopping PlayStation from doing that except for the fact that, hey, they don't need to. And obviously I'm not saying that PlayStation should bring all their stuff to PC. This is more going into the sense of like, hey, Microsoft this whole like last 5 years has basically just been, hey, what can I do to make you love me?
Yeah.
Mac, we'll count that as one of yours, just so we basically kind of lap that into one. So, Greg, what would you say is your first prediction for hardware stuff?
I mean, I think this is a long shot. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm really, really hopeful. 2 terabyte hard drive in it. Like, I know it's so minor, it's not that big of a deal, but as games are getting huge, update patches, software add-ons, stuff like that, they're just adding to that. I think you need to have a 2 terabyte hard drive.
Have you guys heard what Sony said the launch model is going to have?
Nope.
All right, time to get depressed. So because you guys know that Sony is doing like their proprietary stuff with their hard drives to make everything run a lot faster with SSDs, Mark Cerny has said, hey, at launch, our base model of the PlayStation 5 is going to have 890 gigs. Not even a terabyte.
That's so weird.
Yes, it's going to have less than a terabyte of space on it.
What the hell? That would have been fine, 7-8 years ago when the PS4 launched?
Yes.
That'd have been awesome when the PS4 launched, yeah.
But, like, the reason behind this is because their technology they're using is still so new and developing that they just can't get the, like, correct speeds. It's like when the Switch launched, remember, like, it was like Nintendo said, hey, we can do micro SD cards up to, like, 500 gigabytes or whatever, but, like, those micro SD cards didn't exist on the market. That's kind of where Sony's at. We're like, hey, the hardware can do more, but we can only do less than a gig. Like, we can't make this run at the speeds we want at more than this.
Yay, so I wonder what that means it's going to be after the operating system.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, there's a lot of questions still up in the air for that, and it's like, dude, you look at like something like Call of Duty Warzone. Like, isn't Call of Duty Warzone alone like 80 gigs?
Yeah, it's something stupid.
We're in an era where hopefully because of the way that these games are getting made, the sizes theoretically could go down. But this kind of goes back to the big thing that they tote with like both parties of no load times because everything's going to be so much faster. Hey, guess what? Once you give people the power to not have to load, artists are going to see that as, oh, I can add more shit that's going to slog it down and make it go back to having 3-minute loads again, you know?
Well, I'm just curious now, if you said it's 890 gigs? Is that what you said it is?
It's around there. I know it is over 800 but under 900. If I'm recalling right, it is around 890.
How does that look on the box?
Oh, dude, exactly. Like, let me tell you right now, it's not gonna say on the box. It's just gonna say launch. You see, you can't advertise like a weird middle ground number like that. But like the last time I remember something like doing that was the Wii U. Like, remember how they would advertise, guys, check it out, 32 gigs, baby. But like, dude, like I'm looking at my box for the Switch now. On the front of the Switch box, it doesn't say, hey buddy, we got 32 gigs on here.
Well, no, and the launch PS4 didn't either. The launch PS4 was just a PS4 box.
I'm looking at that one right now. Literally, it says on top of the box, it says 500 gigabytes. Right
Does
next
it
to the
really?
color. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Like, I have all my boxes right next to me.
Well, I'm not a box collector, but even still, okay, at launch, whatever, you have one console, right? Mm-hmm. What does it look like when you have a second iteration like they did for the PlayStation 4, where it was either this model is a 890 gig or it's a 1.5 terabyte?
Yeah, they're literally opening themselves up to a big can of worms. So yeah, it's interesting you bring up the hard drive thing because most people are like you. They're like, oh, dude, I don't have enough space. Like right now, my PS4 is a terabyte, and it is hanging on to that terabyte for dear life.
See, I've got a terabyte and a 4 external, and it's getting full.
I do not plan to get an external until it gets to a point where it's like, oh, hey, we're going to be like shutting down PlayStation Network on PS4. And then when that happens, I'm just like, well, I'm going to go buy a big old external and then just go download everything I purchased.
Oh, well, you still got like 7 years.
Important thing to remember, guys. These new systems won't be running games off external hard drives anymore. Because remember, these games are going to be tailor-made to run with their SSDs.
Ugh.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a whole weird Wild West of like launch kind of problems in the way that we've never really seen before. Theoretically, like it'll be nice to assume that all this gets ironed out, but let's be real, probably won't. Mac, what is your second prediction then?
Okay, my second prediction is going to be about the UI. It will be, of course, different than the PS4's, but it will be kind of like, it'll still kind of build on the structure of the PS4 in terms of like how it lays out and how you move about it, but it will just try and be an overall smoother experience. But I like a complete breath of fresh air. I think it'll still be a little janky. I don't think it'll be perfect, but I think it'll just be kind of like an evolution on the PS4s.
See, that's a tough one. I'm always like, I never loved the PS4's UI. So I loved the XMB. Like, if they like ever gave an option to go back to like XMB as a classic, I kind of would have. But I at least took credence in the fact of, I don't even know how many times the Xbox One updated their menu, and to think that they still never found something that works is truly hilarious in a really kind of sad way.
Yeah. The Xbox One's thing is just awful.
But like that's the thing, it's not even consistently awful. Like they keep updating it and somehow getting it worse than the thing everyone didn't like before. Like so it's like you gotta just hope that they just like are holding on to some gold mine for the Series X to launch, or that they're just gonna give up and do what the internet's been asking for over a decade and just launch the Xbox Series X with the 360 blades again.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, the UI is interesting. The UI, to me personally, it doesn't bother me that much. I hated the XMB, but I have enjoyed it now that I can actually add folders to the PlayStation 4. That's been nice. What was that, a year ago?
Oh, no, that was longer. They added folders probably a hot minute into it, but I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I just don't really trust any of the major like the era of like PS3 and 360 was fun, especially for me as someone who didn't own a computer when I had my PS3. Like, my PS3 was my media device of like I burned all my CDs there, I had all my movies there, I could stream stuff there, I could store movies there, and on top of like games and pictures. But like because they took out so many of those features for the PS4. Like, I remember it was a big deal when you could play music from a USB disc 2 years after the PS4 launched. And I was like, this is really ass backwards. And so it kind of made me care less about the UI. I'm trying to think. So for my last hardware prediction, kind of, I'm going to go in the sense of kind of another odd one, but is going to be interesting of, I bet they are going to get rid of PlayStation Now in terms of streaming and basically just wrap it completely all into PlayStation Plus and just crank up the price. Because they're like, hey, people have adopted PlayStation Plus to the point where they probably are going to do it if they're going to do it, and they're not going to do it if they're not. And I don't think there's anything Sony right now can do to make Now any more appealing as a streaming service. I think if you want to still download those games, they might rebrand it as a separate thing. But like the streaming exclusive access of games is going to be basically shafted onto PlayStation Plus as a value add, because ever since Sony got rid of having 6 games every month and now just do 2 games, I don't think there's ever been a month where people were like, holy crap, this was worth losing 4 games.
No. Not at all. I'll agree with you on that one 100%.
Like, cause I don't know about how you guys felt, but like even as like when people who I know didn't have a Vita, but they had PlayStation Plus, there was that thing always in the back of their head every month of like, oh, dude, Hotline Miami's on here? Like, I just got Hotline Miami for Vita and I don't even have it yet. I'd be like, oh, shit, well, maybe I want to play on the Vita now. That's why like one of like the most ingenious Vita bundles they ever did, but it was probably a little too late, was like there was a Vita bundle that was just PlayStation Plus. Because if you remember when PlayStation Plus launched on the Vita, it launched with Uncharted, Gravity Days, Jet Set Radio HD, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It launched with like 6 Vita games at once. It was like, holy, this is like all the games you want on the Vita, but like as your free go-to game. So like, it would be nice to make PlayStation Plus a value proposition, because I don't think online play does it enough. Like for me personally, I re-upped it last year to play Borderlands a couple of times, but I don't pay for PlayStation Plus. I've let my subscription lapse. I don't care about those free games, and paying for online just isn't worth for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't have it if I had to pay for
it. Greg, what is your last prediction? If unless you guys have any feelings on PlayStation Now.
I do. Do you think they just roll it in, or do you think they fully rebrand it?
I think they rebrand the download to play, similar to a Games Pass, and they roll in the streaming to PlayStation Plus.
I can see that. I think that's more believable, I think, than them just ditching it and adding it to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my prediction, my other one here, are we counting peripherals?
Yeah, sure. We'll go crazy. You wanted to get some back touchpad buttons in? Let's get it.
No. PlayStation 5 comes with a camera that is specifically designed. It works for everything, but it allows you to optimize your sound quality by taking pictures of your ear.
Oh my god.
Ooh.
If it wasn't because of all the manufacturing issues, I would actually probably believe you, just because I know how much Sony was amazed at how well the camera did for them. But that's a really great. I believe there's a camera that's going to do all those things. I do not believe that it's bundled into the system, because I think price is going to be a tough one.
I think it might not be bundled with it, but it'll be something you can purchase add-on so that you can play your PSVR on it.
100%. Although, man, I've never been in more of a weird spot with PSVR. Of like, they've said PSVR is backwards compatible, but I have zero faith in Sony that they're going to do another one. But then, like, I don't think the PS5 is going to be able to keep the PSVR relevant into the next year, if that makes sense.
Well, weren't there rumors recently that they had patented new controllers or working on new controllers for that, and they
patent new shit all the time. Like,
I know they do. Everybody does that.
But they working
on a wireless.
I don't think VR has proven that it's worth putting another one out there, is my thing. Like, think about it like this. PlayStation VR is the most successful VR platform on the market at over, like, somewhere between 5 to 10 million. At the end of the day, that's barely 10% that's actually less than 10% of the PlayStation 4 family. So it's like, from an optics wise, it's like, wait, how are we going to make developers want to put out games that less than 10% of our user base has?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but I'm trying to find out what their actual attach rate is for games.
Games are high, but if you look at okay, so it's weird. The games that sell well, but it's the same like 10 to 20 games every month. Like, new games are not breaking through. Like, the last game that really like had legs were Beat Saber and like Trover Saves the Universe. And even Trover you can play without, but like the games that are big are Vacation Simulator, Job Simulator, Rick and Morty VR, like things that are going to be big, like Batman VR. Like, if it's not one that's been hyped up to forever, most of these games are just kind of getting shot. Like, no one's looking out here like, oh, dude, like, can I play To the Top? Like, yeah, To the Top is a solid VR game, but most people don't even know what that is.
Fair enough.
I don't know what that is.
Exactly. It's okay. It's it's an important game if you have VR, but not worth explaining on this podcast.
Yay!
Who's ready to talk about some game predictions?
Oh.
I've got a juicy juicy apple to start us off with for a game prediction. That I'll be curious to see what you guys think. I think the PlayStation 5, at least at this announcement, and by the way, this prediction does not have to be for what we're going to see at this announcement show, but if it is shown out there, you get a lot of bragging points. I think that PlayStation is going to show off. This is it's an asterisk next to it because it's sort of nebulous, but you'll see where I'm going at when I say it. I think that the team at Sony Studio Japan, the team who made Gravity Rush 2, their next project will get announced. And it is going to be either or a new Siren game, or they somehow worked out the rights to make it a new Silent Hill game.
Huh.
And
I guess that would.
And I say
either
or because I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but do you guys even remember the Siren franchise from PS2 and PS3?
I do.
No.
So, Greg, if you didn't know this, that team, before they made Gravity Rush, made this horror game called Siren, and that team, before they made Siren at Studio Japan, they were the original Team Silent for Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3. So they have that lineage going on there. And they've always talked about how they really want to go back and do horror again. And I think if the Silent Hill deal falls through, there is still enough of a interest in horror that just doing Siren alone, I think, would get people interested. So that's my number one, mainly just because I am a huge horror fan, and I love Siren, and I love Silent Hill. Any thoughts, or who wants to jump into the next prediction?
I feel like Siren is just so like it just happened so long ago. I wouldn't be surprised if they just if it's not even Siren, it's just they try go for something new. Because as much as I want Sony to revive things, I feel like they're at a point where they're just like, unless it was a big, everyone knows this, everyone is like familiar with this, I feel like they would prefer like a new IP over reviving a fairly niche, somewhat forgotten horror franchise.
See, I would believe you if not for the fact that we also live in a world where Sony thought releasing Medieval as a remake was a viable option. So who knows? The world is weird.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next with another prediction, at least for games and stuff?
I can go next.
Go for it.
Mine is gonna be little. I don't know if I want to say I think it's definitely a very, very safe bet. But it's one that's also like I'm also like genuinely excited over. God of War 5, I think has a solid chance of.
Now hold on. I know what you're
there.
getting at, but we have to talk about this real quick. Isn't it technically God of War 6? Because there's God of War Ascension that everyone always forgets.
Well, Ascension isn't really treated as a numbered title.
Ascension is treated as numbered as Sparta and Chains of Olympus, for God's sakes.
Yes, but those aren't numbered titles.
All right, I will allow you to continue your prediction, but I need you to right now commit to a subtitle. What's the because they're not going to call it 5 or 6. They're going to subtitle it.
No. I wouldn't say Ragnarok because I'm positive the God of War 6 is going to be Ragnarok.
Oh no!
5,
don't make it a trilogy. I was hoping it would be Ragnarok.
Dude, did you play 4?
I did. Well, are you meaning the 2018 one? Because I'm
Yes.
in the camp of I think 4 is Ascension. That's why I'm like, hey, that's confusing.
Yeah, no. 2018.
Yeah, I played it.
2018 it outlines how this is it perfectly outlines how this is gonna go. The first game's about Baldur, the second game's about Thor, and the third game's gonna be the second game's gonna be Fimbulwinter with Thor, and then the third game's gonna be Ragnarok with Odin.
Imagine the box art for God of War Fimbulwinter. Wait,
Part of me
get,
wants to.
What if they get really punny and stupid and they call it God of Thor?
The God of Thor. Hello, my name is Thor. My name is Thor's. I am the God of Thor. And that, like, all of it's just he gets to tell Thor what to do.
What if like the spin-off games once that like this current trilogy is done for God of War and it's just called Atreus of War?
Do you really think they're gonna do more spin-off games?
I would bet if this series keeps up the quality of 2018, I would 100% play an Atreus game because I bet that would be fun and different.
I am of the camp that thinks that by the time we get out of this current series, the series is going to be about Atreus. I think it's going to switch from Kratos to Atreus at some point.
Atreus in Egypt? Tell me that wouldn't be great.
Atreus is cool. Atreus is really cool. I like him.
He shouldn't work as well as he does. I remember I was texting Greg because I played God of War 2018 really late. Like I played it late 2019 for the first time, and I remember like playing through this. I was like, man, I really like this kid. Like he's and it was funny because like he has the whole I'm a shitty snotty like god arc, but you still care for him, which is a real testament to that like character.
Yeah, like he feels like a legitimate kid, but he doesn't feel obnoxious.
So apologies for the name puns and stuff. So properly though. So what is your how do you expect them to kind of either unveil, or what is your specific predictions for what they're going to do with this God of War?
Part of me would not be surprised if it's actually called God of War Fimbulwinter, but I think that would be the lame name. I think they can get way more creative with that, but I can't really come up with anything right now.
Okay. Greg, you were a big fan of God of War, right?
Not the original. I liked the 2018 one, but I didn't like the other ones.
I think it's safe to say most people are probably in that camp of more people like current God of War than any of the older ones.
I just hated Kratos as a character. I thought he was so bland and boring.
It sucks because like I'm a fan of all of those games for the most part, but like when he's done right, and it's very rare, Greek Kratos is a very interesting story to tell. Like, but what sucks is like Ghost of Sparta is the best that series ever gets, unfortunately. Before 2018.
I have one of my friends is he's the one that basically got me into God of War, because what we used to do years ago is anytime I would go to visit him or he'd come to visit me, I would have him play a game that I've played, and he would have me play a game that he played. And I told him, like, I want you to play this really, really long game. And he was like, cool, since this game's really long, I'll have you play just the entire God of War series. And that's what ended up happening. And as it went through, I was like, yeah, Kratos is awful person. But I did see like what it was very clearly going for, at least in like 3, where it's just like, yeah, this is meant to be a take on a Greek tragedy about like how Kratos is like, he's so consumed with revenge, it just ruins everything. But as I was playing through 3 and I was playing it with my friend, part of me was like, I think he has a different idea of what this game is like about. I think he's sympathizing with Kratos a bit too much.
He's got Rick and Morty syndrome of like, yeah, dude, fuck yeah, Kratos has got it going on.
He played the games when he was young, and I think because he was playing them when he was a young kid, I think he doesn't fully realize that, at least back then, I don't think he realized that Kratos was meant to not be a good guy.
I have a really funny quick story about the first time I ever talked to David Jaffe. The first thing that came up to me that I wanted to ask him, out of all the questions you could ever ask David Jaffe, like a very prestigious like person in the PlayStation like world as a developer, like he's seen a ton of stuff. The first thing I asked him, I was like, "Excuse me, Mr. Jaffe, have you played or did you have any input on the God of War HD collection on PlayStation Vita, and what do you think of it? And I got like the most depressing, but at least thankfully honest answer possible. He was like, no, Sony didn't really give a shit about me by the time that finally came out, so I didn't have any input for it.
Damn.
And yeah, I played it. It's great. Because it is one of those like actually surprisingly good ports. The guys who did Sly Cooper HD and Sly 4 Sanzaru, also makers of the good Sonic Boom games on 3DS. They made that HD port, and he was like, yeah, it's pretty good. Like, that's about it. It was like he didn't get any input, which kind of sucks, because I remember one of my favorite little bits is like that weird Java port, that weird Java God of War game, like David Jaffe actively worked on. So in my hope, it was like, oh, maybe he's one of the reasons it was good. He's like, no, he had nothing to do with it. He was like, no, not at all. Greg, what is your prediction for your first one?
So I'm going to kind of follow Mac's footsteps here. Horizon New Dawn.
That
was showed off.
That was also my second prediction.
I think it's a little bit more likely we see something from that than God of War, just because it is 3 years out now.
I agree. Horizon's more likely than God of War, but I haven't played the first Horizon. So I don't.
Because
it wouldn't be as
such
exciting to me.
A safe bet, Greg. How if you're Sony, how are you revealing it? How do you make the reveal of Horizon 2 memorable?
I guess it depends on when your launch plan is. So I don't think it'll be a day one launch. So I think what we get out of it is more or less a stinger. So it's just you kind of see Alloy, you see a background, kind of like they did with The Last of Us 2 when they kind of showed it off, and then you get like Horizon New Dawn or something ridiculous as a title.
I just want, whenever they reveal it, just have Lance Reddick come out and just do a narration for that demo, because like he was my favorite part of Horizon. I know you haven't played it, Mac, but do you know who Lance Reddick is?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, of course.
He's just got such a unique voice, and I remember when I found out he was in the game, that was another one of those games, like, I'd owned it since launch day, but I finally beat Horizon last year for the first time. I got so into that, and I was like, man, that was one of those great PlayStation moments of like, wow, this is so, like, yes, it's that open world third person kind of game, but like it kind of goes into that one of like, man, I will always remember Horizon because that has such a great story. Like, that was such a unique and interesting premise for a story that, like, especially someone like me who, like, has seen so many tropes in sci-fi, it was nice to have something that was like, wow, this is genuinely interesting and different, which, like, makes sequels a lot more exciting than, like, hey, I love The Last of Us, even though, like, I don't know what's happening in The Last of Us 2, I have a pretty good idea what we might see. I have no idea what I'm going to see for Horizon 2.
I hope the way they reveal Horizon is they have Aloy come out and say, "Death to all men," because that's what this game was always about.
You know what?
At least according to some people.
It's gonna be a 2-player lesbian co-op experience, and you can only shoot the bow when you both are holding hands together. It's your mind links.
Yes. It's gonna get really, really. It's specifically gonna be lesbians because that's more marketable.
It's Keanu Reeves on stage as the bad guy.
Oh man. Keanu Reeves teaming up with Lance Reddick, even though it has happened already before now, I would be very down.
Hey.
Let's see. So my number 2, I'm trying to think if I want to be a little bit more safer or if a little bit more odder. So for my number 2, getting a little bit more into kind of RPGdom, this one's going to be a game that gets revealed and is very safe, but I think is going to lead to a lot of interesting conversations. Square Enix is going to come out, their logo is going to pop up on the stage, and we are going to see a quick teaser for Final Fantasy VII Part 2, whatever the hell that is, like super quick quick teaser for 7 Part 2, and what it actually is a lead-in to Final Fantasy 16. And 16 is going to have a gameplay demo and be like, hey, we're out next year. This game's been in development for like 3+ years. Show you a gameplay demo. Give you something big. Because, like, you start off with 7-2 to like, oh, that's the safe one, and then you just bam surprise everyone with 16, which like we all know is coming, but no one knows anything about.
I both love and hate you for this. Because that's something Final Fantasy VII related was actually on my list, but I could definitely see something like that happening. And of course, as you know me, it's instantly take my money.
Okay, so then I want to go into your number 2 then. So how would you want to see anything 7 Part 2 related?
I didn't even think about 16, but I think 7 Part 2 is just, again, it's not that they're necessarily working on it, but that they show something from it. They give us some little bit of a teaser just to kind of get the mind going and going, what the hell is going on with this game, because we don't really know. But I'm thinking, yeah, they come out with their logo, Square Enix, the music plays, and you see Aerith. And that's it.
It's there are so many ways they could tease Part 2 of that remake, and it just gets me so excited. Oh man, yeah, they're just. But one of the reasons I say start with 7 before 16 is because even though I love Final Fantasy 15 like to pieces, it's like one of my favorite Final Fantasies of all time. Like you can't start a trailer and say, by the makers of the game a lot of people are complaining about. Like it's just like, because like we all know it, like the guys making 7 remake aren't making 16, so like you kind of have to like skirt around the fact of like putting the two next to each other. If I had to be any extra crazier, just because I would love for this to happen, even though I know in a million years it's definitely not going to happen. 16.
Just Cause 5.
No,
because Square Enix also did Just Cause.
No, if anything, they probably would actually want a Just Cause 5, but Avalanche, that studio, is in such a weird state of being split up that probably is going to happen. No, I will say, if 16 wants to be extra cool and get a lot of brownie points, make 16 the first Final Fantasy game that actually just looks like Amano paintings. Like, the whole game is an interactive Amano painting, and, like, I will be so sold. Mac, what is your number 2 prediction? And please tell me it's not Just Cause 5.
No.
Thank you.
No. It's Just Cause 6.
No. You know why not Just Cause 5? Just cause. Like, damn. They committed.
People have been making these jokes for like 15 years now. Anyway, this is not so much a prediction as it is just kind of like a want. I would definitely. Okay, you know what? I'll combine. I'll throw 2 of them in there because one of them is a want and one of them I think is like one of them is a want that I feel like has 0 chance, while the other one is a want that I think like at least has a chance. Why is my phone going off?
It's Sony calling you. They found out about Just Cause 6.
Oh god, they know I leaked it.
The leaks have happened.
Anyway, in terms of the purely, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I want it, is New Ape Escape.
Oh, you stole one of mine.
I
want that so bad.
I want it so bad, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I think it is, dude. Like, they've been teasing it ever since last year.
I wouldn't like. Yeah, I definitely think it, like, at some point I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a medieval styled remake of the first game, but I just don't think it would be something that would be happening like now they would announce it as like, this is one of the reasons to get a PS5.
How depressing is it that there was a boardroom meeting at PlayStation where someone won the argument that Medieval deserves a remake more than fucking Ape Escape?
Anyway, which we can count this as like, oh, I'm giving 2 predictions, so we can like skip over my 4th one or whatever.
Okay.
But I feel like one want that I think like actually has a much better chance of happening is Spider-Man 2.
Oh, for sure. Dude.
I don't think it'll release anytime soon, but I feel like there's a solid chance of Sony just being like, just still announcing it there, just because announcing such a thing would be like enough to get so many people on board.
I don't know about you guys. I feel like because of how much of an instant success that game was, I wouldn't be that surprised if it somehow ended up being a launch game.
I would be amazed if it was a launch game.
Now the real question, Greg, if you're Insomniac, what is the villain? Who's the main villain of Spider-Man 2?
Oh, I mean, considering I didn't even finish first Spider-Man.
So the only ones you need to know that aren't available is anyone from the Sinister Six. Anyone else is fair game.
So anyone else is available? And explain the Sinister Six to me again.
Sinister Six, so I'm probably getting this wrong, so Mac, help me if I can. Doc Ock, Mysterio, Vulture, Rhino, Shocker, and Lizard Man?
Let me double check that. I think you're right.
Yeah, so about those. Like, I might be forgetting one or two, but like out of the big
Doc
ones of those.
Okay, so I do remember that the Sinister Six in Marvel Spider-Man, which, reminder, that's actually the title.
Marvel TM Spider-Man.
No one calls it Marvel's Spider-Man. They just call it Spider-Man. But the team for that game was Doc Ock, Electro, Vulture, Rhino, Scorpion, and Mr. Negative.
Well, yeah, you're right. I forgot Mr. Negative was wrapped in there. So yeah, so Mr. Negative was swapped for Lizard Man.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys like came back. Particularly, I feel like Mr. Negative could become like not an Ocelot type, but like he's one of like the few characters that would like recur, even though.
Also, Greg, why have you not played this game?
I couldn't even tell you.
I thought you liked Marvel.
I do like Marvel, but it's just I don't know. At the time, something probably shiny object distracted me.
That is such. I don't know how Maggie you feel about it. I love Marvel Spider-Man. That's such a good game.
Oh, what I played
was
great.
Game.
Yeah, but I just, every now and then I go through ebbs and flows of wanting to play games, and that just might have been at the time when I didn't want to play anything.
Okay, so then the question I asked you then, who is a villain that they could announce that would get you so excited for the sequel that you would play the first one?
From Spider-Man? Nobody.
Not even. See, I've been like waiting for you just to say the obvious one of Venom.
Like that. I mean, that's yes, that's who I think it could be. But to get me excited, nobody. Like that's the plain answer.
My answer is they need to. I want them to just come out and say, guys, we're retconning the first game, and we are just making the mayor Harry Osborn not Harry Osborn. Wait, no, is it? No, Harry's his son. Why am I forgetting? Norman. Norman. We're retconning the first game, and we're making Norman Osborn just Willem Dafoe. That's what they would need to do to make Spider-Man 2. Be like, listen, guys, I know we couldn't do it, but we're righting the wrongs. We paid $9.
He even looks like Willem Dafoe in the game, but like ginger.
He's like a chubbier one, but man,
he's a chubbier ginger Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, so it's like there are just a few people from Spider-Man you can't get better than the Raimi versions. It's J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, and it's Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin.
Norman.
But I gotta say, I always forget his name, the actor who did Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. The guy who does Doc Ock in 2018 Spider-Man is fantastic. Like, that Doc Ock is like one of my favorites in all of Spider-Man.
Oh, definitely. I think part of the reason why it was so great was also the fact that we literally didn't even know he was going to be there.
Oh, man.
Like, when the game released, it was a surprise that Doc Ock was in the game. People, like, that was not known. And as soon as people find out that, like, oh, Otto Octavius is in the game, it's immediately like blaring warning signals.
Oh, man. Yeah, that game, I cannot believe that game is almost 2 years old. It's so crazy.
That game's so good.
I guess so for that one, I'll go into... Oh, no, hold on. No, Greg, it is your turn for your second game. What is your second prediction?
So there's been... we know Blue Point's been working on a game for a long, long time. We still don't know what it is, but it is, I guess, confirmed it's going to be one of the launch titles. So I think we get this trailer. It starts off with you're looking through a scope, trigger pulls, guy dies, and then as you see more gameplay footage, you realize it's Siphon Filter.
Man, I'd be so bummed. That's like Siphon Filter's like Twisted Metal with man legs. It's like I get that they're Siphon Filter fans. I don't know, dude.
It goes back to my earlier statement, though. They need to diversify their gameplay.
But that's another third-person game with shooting.
But it's shooting. What do they have? Days Gone?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you go first person, but it's a shooting game that they can add to their repertoire.
I guess.
What else would they do?
I would love to see but I'm aware, and this is a sad fact that like people like Mac and me have to agree upon. There are probably more Siphon Filter fans out there in the world than Ape Escape fans.
Oh,
probably.
Oh, man.
I'm a little surprised that you would say it'd be Siphon Filter, and not what I've been hearing a lot of people say, which is Demon Souls.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of my like little guesses and stuff of like I'm full on the Blue Point doing Demon Souls because it makes the most sense for me. From is obviously busy doing Elden Souls or Elden Rings.
Elden Ring.
Yeah, so it's like they got their hand tied with that, so they can't do Bloodborne 2, but everyone's been wanting a modern port of Demon Souls because that's still stuck on PS3, so... But yeah, I'll say this though, it is just as possible they're doing Siphon Filter as it is they're doing Demon Souls or even a Legend of Dragoon remake. It's like that studio has pretty much said, "Hey, we can do anything, man. Like, hey, you want us to port your Vita game to PS4 at 4K? Fuck it, let's go.
Yes,
who cares?"
Actually, I do. I want a specific PSP game ported, but you
want Crysis to 4K core, which unfortunately is not going to happen anytime soon.
No, it won't.
That'll be a really beefy DLC episode for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's just all of Crysis Core remade. So my next prediction is one that I've heard for a lot, and I honestly am just kind of throwing this out there because I'm curious to see what you guys are thinking, is the rumor mill for the longest time is that Insomniac North Carolina is pretty much done.
Oh, that's me!
Yeah, exactly. They're pretty much done with a PS5 launch title that is a next Ratchet and Clank game based off the 2016 one? Whatever one came out during the movie.
That was 2016. That was actually my last prediction is a new Ratchet and Clank. And... please, of the PS2 era PlayStation mascot wars, Ratchet and Clank is my personal favorite, and I would hope it's if it wants to continue with the universe of the remake, fine. I just hope it ends up being better than the remake. Not that the remake was bad, but I found it underwhelming.
There was definitely like time constraints. You could definitely tell they were working within a budget, but I think for what they did, I think it's still one of those PS4 exclusives of like I look back very fondly on the Ratchet and Clank remake at the end of the day.
There was a reason it was $40.
That game sold like crazy well. No one thought like that game sold way better than the movie even did performance-wise.
I mean, a video game movie, it's not hard.
Yeah, but like I will say one of the things of like that the weird things that like probably they didn't think was that big of a deal. Anytime they used the scenes from the movie in the remake, I hated so much. Of like it stood out, it looked worse than the game sometimes, and it was like, why are you doing this? It like reminded me of those like PlayStation 2 movie tie-in games where they would just like play the MP4 file of like Wolverine Origins or whatever, and it's like cool, I guess.
The remake has a lot of issues, but it's the kind of thing where like at its core, it's solid. At its core, it's solid. It's just when it comes to a lot of the extra stuff where it just starts to not fall apart, but it starts to just be like, this needed more time, or this needed a bigger budget, or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, listen, when you have, oh no, dang it, am I forgetting his name? Was it Steve Buscemi was the main villain they casted? No,
Let me check.
Buscemi. No, it was Paul Giamatti, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Paul Giamatti.
I don't know why, but that recast I always remember finding this way too funny.
It is weird. It is weird that they would get Paul Giamatti to play Drek.
I mean, it fits though.
Especially when he was voiced by I forget his name, but he had had a really deep voice in the original.
Oh, you're right. It was that guy who did every cartoon bad guy.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
So Greg, just because Mac's apparently playing doubles and triples for predictions, what is your next game prediction?
Gran Turismo 7 comes out launch.
That would be it's so smart. It doesn't even matter how safe it is, because there's been so much time from sport that I feel like the world is just ready for a actual Gran Turismo game that the world cares about.
Well, not to mention using a game, a racing game, is always great to show off your capabilities and the power of your console.
Yeah, honestly, plus another thing I was thinking of with GT7 is that they could kind of get away with it like Smash Ultimate. Smash Ultimate is basically Smash Wii U, but better looking. At its core, it is basically a lot of Smash for Wii U. And they could do the same with GT7 by just taking those assets from GT Sport and just cranking them up a little bit. Yeah, I think that would sell really, really, really well, because that, those racing there's a reason those racing games do so well as they do. Yeah, GT7 is one that I think I always forget about just because I'm not a huge racing fan, but would be really, really big, especially at launch. At launch, it's as little as I care about racing, give me GT7 before NAC 3, please.
Yeah, it's a game everybody will talk about. Oh, look how good it looks. Let me show you. That's exactly what they'll go for with it. So
that's a good one. Mac, do you want to do your last one now, just so we can kind of feel like we're kind of keeping in tradition, or are you all tapped out of predictions now?
I'm tapped out. Ratchet and Clank was my last one, though. Let me add one little thing for Ratchet and Clank. So the original voice actor for Drek was Kevin Michael Richardson, aka the voice of Gantu in Lilo and Stitch. And in the 2016 game, because they didn't get him back because they were trying to get someone who sounded more like Paul Giamatti, instead in the game, because they weren't going to pay for Paul to be in a video game, plus I feel like Paul probably wouldn't even care, they got Eric Bauza to play him in that. And Eric Bauza is kind of important right now because he just, in the last week, made his debut as the current official voice actor for Bugs Bunny.
Oh, yeah! I was like, why does his name sound familiar? Yeah, you're right.
He's Bugs Bunny, he's Daffy, and he's Tweety Bird.
Oh, man, I forgot about that. By the way, hey, HBO Max, really bad, but hey, those Looney Tunes shorts, pretty good.
Oh, the Looney Tunes cartoons were great.
Look, they added Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I was all in.
I feel like that's one of those shows that's hey, are you any cable network on at 1 a.m? Yeah, we'll give you Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Oh, don't talk trash on my Fresh Prince, man.
I mean, hey, nothing wrong with whoring yourself out, but I'm just saying it ain't it's like having yo, dude, you see Home Improvement's on? Yeah, dude, Home Improvement's on everything.
Home Improvement can go kick rocks.
Home Improvement PS5 launch game. Let's go. Tim Allen walks on stage.
Hell yeah.
A remake of the old Nintendo game.
He gets to say some pretty racy stuff.
He's just he walks out there all coked out. He's just all ready for it. He's like, who's ready for games?
Who's ready for Shaggy Dog 3?
Oh god.
No, it's gonna be the Shaggy Dog 3 is gonna be a crossover with that, the Shaggy Dog and the Shaggy DA. It's the crossover no one asked for.
Oh shit. Oh, and then also Santa Claus 4. It'll be like Ghostbusters, the video game.
Speaking of other scary things, my other prediction I have, I think I'm at number 4 now. My number 4 prediction and this is another one kind of safe, but just because I want to will it into existence, Resident Evil 8 will be shown off and will have an exclusive demo at the launch of the system. Not exclusive game, but like they will have like how Resident Evil 7 demo launched first on PS4.
So I totally believe that.
So he's thinking the demo launches and the game comes out in their February to April window?
Yeah, let's say, yeah. So game comes out early 2021, November, PS4 owners get the demo as like it's just on the PS Store. Like, with how much success that Resident Evil 7 demo had, especially over all the updates, like, God. Like, I know people, like, don't really remember it as much now, but, like, guys, there was a time where that mannequin finger was, like, the bane of every Resident Evil fan's existence.
Oh, my God, that mannequin. Yeah, honestly, I was going to put Resident Evil 8 on here because I'm pretty confident it's going to be there, but I felt like one of you would have put that because that's one of the more obvious ones.
Okay. Greg, what is your number 4 prediction?
Let me think here. Because like I said,
collection.
I'm shooting from the hip. So I'm gonna go with Watch Dogs Legions will be not day one on the console because I think Valhalla will be, but Watch Dogs Legion will be on the console. It'll be shown off, and it'll be partnering with PlayStation.
That definitely sounds very true because, yeah, Ubisoft likes to kind of get around with all the publishers in different ways. So, obviously, AC is with Microsoft. So, yeah, Watch Dogs would be a safe bet.
They're a whore. Like, Ubisoft is just a whore.
I mean, hey, we like, whether you appreciate it or not, like, one of the best things about Ubisoft is they will support a platform as hard and as long as they can. Like, Ubisoft, like, they didn't need to put out Child of Light on the Vita, but hey, I appreciate the fact that they did. Do you expect anything else, like, in terms of, like, do you think they'll try and, like, do anything exclusive, like, whether it be DLC-wise, or just mainly more of a marketing push?
It'll be more of a marketing push. I think they'll show us some sort of update they've done since the last time they showed it, how it's utilizing the power of the PlayStation 5.
I forget how excited I am by that premise. Because if that premise for Watch Dogs Legions is real, of playing as everyone and it working, I think that's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
My last prediction might get me laughed out of here, but I feel like if PlayStation wants to get put on the right foot, they're going to do this, and it's going to earn them a lot of goodwill. PlayStation is going to announce, as one of their, not last announcements, but like towards the end, they're going to come out and announce Shenmue 4, but this time, no crowdfunding, fully published by PlayStation, and it will be day and date on PC. PS5 and PC, just so they don't have to split up the fan base. So no crowdfunding, all the funding's coming by them. They will market the game. They're not just going to announce it at launch and then kind of throw them some money and then move on like they did with 3. And, like, basically fully come in for it. Because, like, for Shenmue fans, like, 3 wasn't perfect, but, like, for a Kickstarter story, it's definitely one of the few success stories of, like, hey, people weren't offended by 3 like Mighty Number 9.
Yeah.
So I think Shenmue 4 would be one that would get a small amount of people excited, but would earn them a lot of goodwill, even by people who didn't really care about it. Similar to when Shenmue 3 got announced, and, hey, most people probably didn't play the other Shenmue games, but they knew that was a big deal. Greg, what is your last prediction?
Let me think here. So you want something absolutely ridiculous?
It can be whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be like your blow your wad like Last Guardian moment.
I'm a follow your lead on this one, Spencer. I'm gonna get laughed out of the room for this one, but Knack 3.
Oh God.
Ooh, boy.
Knack, baby. All right.
Joke that totally hasn't gotten old.
I love
Mark
Cerny, but fuck Knack, dude. Fuck Knack so hard.
But to keep up with it, because the first one was 1 player, 2 player, this one will be 3 players.
3 times at this point. By the way, Knack 1 had co-op, and it still sucked. Knack 1
I
co-op
can't wait
sucked
for
hard.
Knack 12. Can't wait for Knack 12. 12-player co-op.
By the way, do you remember when Mark Cerny showed off Knack? That was the first PlayStation 4 game ever announced. He said, these are his exact words, "I can't tell you how excited I am to finally be able to show this off." Like, he saw Knack and was like, "Yeah, dude, Knack fucking slaps. Wait till the world sees this little dude."
Like, look at Mark Cerny, though. Are you surprised by that?
Yes, because he makes great... He's behind Crash Bandicoot. He's behind Spyro. Like, yes, his team made, like, one of the worst Crash games of, like, Crash Bash, but either way, like, Cerny games, like, have the potential to be great. But Knack is, like... When the second one came out, it was like, please say psych. Please say psych. But I hate it because after all of this... I'm not even going to say you're wrong, because Knack 3 in a really... Like, it's almost like a really shitty cherry on the top of 2020. Like, Knack 3 is the game we deserve after living half of 2020 so far.
It's only been a half a year.
I know, dude.
Jesus.
I know.
Only halfway through the year.
We're
thing will never end.
like right now, like we're at the point in our lives as a society. I don't know if you guys watch Parks and Rec, of like that episode where they're walking very slowly on the ice skating rink, and there's the same song keeps looping as they're crawling and falling on the ice. Like, that's just like we're at the halfway point in the ice rink, guys. The song's not gonna get any better.
I just say we do a ball drop and call it 20.5.
I now know what song we're going to end this episode on. It's going to be that really crappy song that plays when they're walking on the ice. It's going to be, "Get on your feet.
Oh,
Get
God.
up and make it happen." The best part about that clip is just where the dog and this is unscripted if you guys don't know this, the dog champion just starts pissing himself in the middle of the ice skating rink. I was like, all right, this is how you know this is just our year personified. Well, it is, at least for us, I know Mac, it's already past midnight. It is almost 11:30 here as we're recording. We have some questions, but basically because now that we know that this whole event has been pushed back, I'm going to hold on to these questions till probably next episode to answer, and also so I don't have to hold you two hostage any longer. So, thank you guys for talking through all of the weird predictions, Sega and Microsoft, and I cannot believe this, but I feel like we said the word Wendy's 9 hours ago, but my computer only says 3. So that's truly, truly amazing. Thank you guys for coming on. I'll let you go first, Greg. Where would you like people to stalk you online?
I am on Twitter at Tonksy, TONNKSY, and if you want to listen to more of me, which you probably don't, let's be honest, I do another podcast.
You ended on Knack 3. You did that to yourself. You almost had a follower, and then you said Knack 3. He was like, oh man, fuck this guy's opinions.
Look, if anything, I might be able to get Mark Cerny, okay? But you can, at the TDM show on Twitter and Facebook, and then, TDM show on all your podcasting servers.
Send all your ear pictures to him on Twitter. Mark Cerny, please.
Also, make sure to send them to Sony because they clearly have something going on.
Hey, man, I like a good ear. You can have some fun with an ear if you know what you're doing. Mac, where can I lick your ear online?
You can't.
That's just when the episode ends. You cannot. You cannot do that. No,
episode ends. Over. Just play the bad song.
That's what the call is. Just with that right there.
No, okay. You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter at Macca, JBO Macca for Twitter and Twitch, and then on YouTube it's just Macca. I mainly people know I do some SMT stuff, but I do other stuff. I'm kind of tapped on some Atlus video ideas for right now, so instead I'm gonna be getting a little bit more gonna talk about some other stuff that are somewhat related, but it's fun, some fun stuff.
You mentioned you're doing another Is This Good? And this is actually me asking because I feel like I don't think you've told me this off chat before, but have you already picked which game you're doing next for the Is This Good, or are you still trying to decide?
Oh yeah, and I already have an idea picked for my next Is a Good game. It's called get it right, But yeah, no, I already have it picked out. I actually was working on the script for it earlier. When it comes to these, essentially what I do is I play through the game up until a point that I feel like I've gotten enough, or up to a point where I'm satisfied, and then I just go through the footage, write down whatever comes to my head, and then I just start, just hacking away and like trying to thin it out to the best parts. So I get both my thoughts in, like my genuine thoughts, as well as whatever stupid jokes I come up with.
So you're basically telling me you're the Garth Marenghi of Weeby YouTube.
What I'm saying is I'm ripping off Donkey.
It's a solid formula for success and knack jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm trying. It's purely just meant to be like a place where I can get my thoughts out there while also still having fun and not making it a full-blown analytical review, because that kind of stuff can get tiring. If
you want a suggestion for a really vague video idea, it's sort of games related, but like if you ever want to like do a weird quickie, just pick every game Troy Baker has ever voiced and just be like, have a quick segment, like second clip of him saying a line and then being like, is this good? No. Is this good? No. Is this good? It's okay. This is a good Troy Baker. And then the rest are all no.
Oh man,
if you would like to find me online, and definitely not with Troy Baker probably, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Torchwood4SP. You can find the podcast at SMT Network. You can find our Facebook group by going to facebook.com/groups/SMT Network. You can find our Facebook page, which I'm sure has an easy URL somewhere, but if you find the Facebook group, you can always just click on the name SMTN and it's already linked to the group. If you'd like to, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps out a whole ton. Trying to get to 1,000 by the end of our inevitable doom in 2020, where Knack 3 releases instead of Gran Turismo 7. So you can just search that by finding my name in the description, or by searching SMTN or Spencer Presley. I think that should be it. If you guys want, you can join the Discord server and all the other links below. If you are listening in like places like iTunes or whatever, reviewing that, rating that, all of that junk helps us a whole bunch. Otherwise, we're just gonna have to spend all of our stimulus money on Wendy's, and nobody wants to spend $1,200 at Wendy's.
Okay, don't speak for yourself.
That's true. All right, well, thank you two for talking about this very off-topic podcast. But hey, I'm gonna say goodbye for us in a way of just saying, hey, if you made it through this whole episode and you only care about Shin Megami Tensei and you don't care about PlayStation, please message me. I would love to know what you thought of this entirely not SMT related episode of SMTN. We've not done that in a while, but I enjoy having a very loosely related podcast episode, so it's kind of fun. So either way, whether you loved this episode or gritted your teeth for the last 2 hours, thank you so much for listening. Mac and Greg, thank you so much for putting up with me for the last 2 hours, and yeah, have a good one, guys. And then you say
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Later.